For 2,000 years, Western civilization has built itself on three unquestioned pillars: that human reason is our highest faculty, that a pure spiritual world exists beyond our physical one, and that Christian morality represents the absolute pinnacle of virtue. In the autumn of 1888, Friedrich Nietzsche looked at this structure and saw only rot. Viewing himself as the last sane man in Europe, he diagnosed the continent as deeply infected with a blind, squalid idealism that was actively stifling human potential. Before collapsing into illness, he produced a rapid-fire sequence of texts meant to summarize his entire life's philosophy. He subtitled one of them, or How to Philosophize with the Hammer. He didn't intend to debate these 2,000-year-old truths. His plan was to take a hammer and strike them like a tuning fork. If they rang hollow, he would expose them for what they were: empty idols. Nietzsche moved beyond standard academic critique, issuing a declaration of war aimed at systematically demolishing the moral and philosophical foundations of the Western world. To begin the demolition, Nietzsche strikes at the founding father of Western philosophy, Socrates. Instead of a hero of reason, Nietzsche diagnoses Socrates as a biological and cultural decadent. He points to the philosopher's famous physical appearance, which even his contemporaries called ugly, as outward evidence of lower, unrefined mob instincts. In ancient Athens, honest men did not carry their reasons on their sleeve. Socrates weaponized dialectics, the relentless, cornering logic of a debate, to force these noble classes to defend what should have been self-evident. He used logic as a weapon of the weak to compromise those who ruled by instinct and tradition. He then introduced an equation that would infect all subsequent Greek thought. He tied reason to virtue and virtue to happiness, making rationality the only path to a good life. This requirement for constant logical proof paralyzed the instinctual nature of the Greeks. When a culture stops commanding and starts arguing for its right to exist, the inner strength that built it begins to evaporate. For Nietzsche, Socrates was the first sign of a civilization losing its will to live. Next, the hammer falls on epistemology, taking aim at the invention of the true world, the idea that there is a pure spiritual realm, like heaven or Kant's thing in itself, sitting above our physical reality. Nietzsche argues that this second world doesn't exist. It was fabricated by philosophers who were hostile to life, giving them a tool to slander, belittle, and escape the physical world of pain and pleasure that we actually inhabit. Historically, this concept evolved. It started as a clever, simple idea in Plato, but over centuries mutated into the pale, elusive obligations of modern Christianity, where salvation is always promised but never realized. Eventually, modern thinkers realized this unknown, unattainable world serves absolutely no purpose. It doesn't comfort, and it doesn't save. It is a useless idea, and free spirits are now positioned to abolish it entirely. Abolishing this concept collapses the entire hierarchy of Western thought. By destroying the true world, we lose the very definition of an apparent one, leaving us only with raw physical reality. The heaviest blow is reserved for traditional Christian morality. In his text, The Antichrist, Nietzsche diagnoses this moral framework as humanity's most catastrophic corruption. He argues the system was built on the resentment of the weak. It appealed directly to the disinherited masses, offering them a way to overthrow the strong by reframing their own lack of power as a virtue. To achieve this, they had to conceptually castrate the divine. They took the powerful, aggressive gods of strong nations and stripped away their martial virtues, reducing them to harmless, good gods who act as a staff for the weary. Concepts like sin, pity, and the equality of souls were then weaponized. The masses used these ideas to enforce uniformity, branding any drive for excellence or power as evil and dragging down everything noble. Traditional morality, therefore, is not an absolute good. It operates as a deceptive survival mechanism for the decadent, specifically designed to poison the human instinct for growth, resilience, and power. With objective truth, traditional morality, and the promise of an afterlife all shattered, we are left looking at a landscape of philosophical ruins. Does this leave humanity wandering in pure nihilism? Nietzsche's answer is a firm no. The destruction was merely a prerequisite. The old idols had to fall to clear the ground for what he calls the transvaluation of all values. In his final notes, he outlines the prescription for moving forward. Humanity must reject being soft, yielding, and submissive. To stamp our will upon the future, we must become hard. This hardness is required to forge the Superman, or Übermensch. This is a new type of creator who abandons the life-denying teachings of the priest to establish an unashamed order of rank. By smashing the idols of the past, Nietzsche clears a path for an existence defined by power, radiant joy, and an absolute, unflinching love for the reality of this life.